Hey guys, it's your boy Pooh, and today I'm giving a review and some general tips on Sandland, the game, a video game version of the anime and manga of the same name. Now, if you're familiar with the series already, you will have some extra context, however, you by no means need to have seen it before playing the game. If you're familiar with Dragon Ball, then you might think of the Sandland video game plot much the same as how Curse of the Blood Rubies is an alternate take on the first saga of the Dragon Ball series. Much of the story is the same, but some plot points and character introductions are switched up to give a better experience throughout the gameplay, and also there are a few characters in the video game that are not in the series at large. Now, this game is predominantly an action RPG. It was developed by ILCA and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment, and the same team that made the anime worked on the animations and cell shadings in this game. Now, you control Beelzebub, or Belze, the son of the King of Demons. In the anime and manga, he has a passing interest in vehicles, but leaves much of it to his teammates. In this game, however, you control the vehicles while playing as Beelzebub, pretty much the entire time. Now, it took me about 51 hours to beat this game, but I estimate if you only play the main story, you likely can beat it in about 38 hours. However, I did not end up completing everything in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if I could get another good 10, maybe even 20 hours out of it, but I was pressed for time to start another game by some friends, and I had already spent a lot of time on side quests. And this leads me to probably the most surprising thing of the entire game. So there are games that advertise themselves as there always being something around the corner, or there always being something left to do. Most of the time that is a lie. However, with Sandland, the maps are so full and varied. With so much to explore, you could easily lose dozens and dozens of hours in the game simply exploring, collecting loot, and finding hidden areas. I cannot stress how much content there is, whilst trying to appear as if the game is very simple and straightforward. Don't believe that for a moment. There was even an entire section of the first map I never uncovered, and there were various times I found quests by randomly speaking to a villager or traveler without any indicator to showcase they wished to speak with me or were of any significance. The theme of this video should just be called "There's Always Something Else." This also coincides with the mechanics and the vehicles. There's always another vehicle that you can get, and there is always a mechanic that you are missing. Now, you start off the game as simply Beelzebub, as I said, and you have your basic quick attack and strong attack, and an attack to cause critical damage when an enemy is stunned. For the first 5 to 10 hours, this will seemingly be all you have. However, that is misleading, and the game does a somewhat poor job of showcasing all of the possibilities. You'll eventually get the chance to open up 2 different option wheels, one for your special attacks, and one for your companion's special attacks. There is also a leveling system that you'll need to pause the game for in order to upgrade your and your companion's abilities. Once again, at first it will seem like your companions are there as set dressing and occasional dialogue as you travel, but after getting a quarter to halfway through the game, a whole new world opens up for them and they can seriously help you in a bind if you know how to use them right. Beelzebub will get power-ups using darkness energy, and his movesets grow as you progress, and you always need to check your progress or you'll forget you have it. So always check your movesets and what you can do, because there will be more options as you go on. Of course, while that is a significant portion of the game, the majority of your experience will be in the myriad of vehicles you can make, customize, and drive. If you really wish to, you could play like 80% of this game out of a vehicle, but sometimes it is required, and really they make the experience far, far easier and better. There are wide open spaces you'll have to travel, areas you cannot get to without a certain specialized vehicle, and large bosses the game encourages you to use vehicles to defeat. Originally, I believed there were only 6 types of vehicles, but by the end of the game I had found 12 or 13, and there might have even been more. You get schematics and frames either from quests or defeating bosses at the bounty listing, and you'll get a garage where you can create and add or change parts. There will also be various specialist characters that can transform your raw materials into more refined items to create your vehicle parts, as well as merchants that you can purchase more basic items from. Yes, in this game there are healing items and items that can refill your stamina or repair your vehicle as well. Now, there is a stealth aspect to this game, however, it's mostly a novelty until it is required. There's a few dozen times in the game where you will have to use stealth, because detection will only send you back to the beginning of the mission or quest. It can be quite annoying, and it'll take some trial and error, but they're never that difficult. What is more difficult is the topographical map. It's not bad, but it can be hard to decipher where small paths are, and while it does leave various indicators for you to use, many are simply not listed, and various places you have already visited will still be on the map, so you might walk into a ruin that you have already looted. Also, for ease of use, Sandland takes a page out of Dragon Ball's playbook and allows you to utilize capsules to store your vehicles. What tends to be annoying is, if you are driving your tank and you get out in front of a cavern and walk into a very short cave to open a chest, your tank will have disappeared within 5 seconds, automatically back in your inventory. It's very difficult to leave your vehicle alone and explore for any real length of time without it disappearing. Same for the raptor mount you can borrow from various settlements. The beast will simply disappear if you walk more than, say, 20 feet from it. It's super frustrating to me. The game also tries to mitigate how far you can upgrade your vehicles by not allowing you to find certain materials required until a portion of the game is completed. So if you're looking for hours and hours for something specific, you might just need to complete a mission or two of the main story to unlock that item. As stated, the main theme of playing the game is there is always something more to find. Truth be told, there were whole swaths of the game I had yet to experience, even after dozens of side quests, and admittedly sometimes the land can be somewhat dull and huge, so you mistakenly drive as fast as you can through the land unless you see something of note, and don't overturn every rock. I've heard there are some materials or items you cannot use unless you beat the game first, and then continually play the game to see all it has to offer. I might go back and do just that. But yes, as I keep saying, search everywhere you can because there's always going to be something that you've missed. Now, the game has many different enemies to fight, from giant scorpions and sand crocodiles to enemy soldiers, tanks, and mechas. You'll recognize a few from other Akira Toriyama media, as in a few enemies. One of the bosses you fight is literally the Red Ribbon Army Saga pirate robot. It will certainly be fun to see what else you can recognize. Oh, and something that was a constant annoyance to my gameplay that they should really change is the autopilot of the vehicles. In the game, it allows you to use autopilot, and it works fine, until enemies, or even potential enemies, are about. Your vehicle will stop dead in its tracks, and much like automated vehicles in real life, where your vehicle will stop if you go 1 inch over a line without your blinker and it just halts your vehicle in the middle of the road, it's more dangerous than just allowing you to continue. In the game, if an enemy gets within range and your autopilot stops, the enemy could just hit you easier and it ruins your flow. I always have to restart it so I can simply steer and focus on my guns, which is an unnecessary adjustment. It's small, but a consistent minor annoyance over 51 hours becomes a large gripe eventually. Now, another smaller gripe is that you cannot swim in water. And while this might seem like it makes sense because you are playing a character that lives in a vast desert, there is a cutscene later in the game where all of the characters fall in water and they can swim just fine. However, it won't let you swim in-game without dying. And this leads me to what happens when you die, speaking of which. When you die, you go back to your last save point or autosave, and the game does not autosave frequently, so be wary of it. However, if you fall into water or off a cliff, it gives you a few mulligans or lets you come back seconds before with a minor reduction in health, but do it 3 or 4 times and you're dead for good, going back to your last save. Now, ironically, even though I keep saying there's always something more to find in this game, the one exception, and this is a big letdown, is in the vast cities you can go into. There are only a handful in the game. There's not a lot of giant settlements, but when you go in there, most of it is just, unfortunately, a set dressing. You can run all the way up and down the huge streets, and really the only thing you'll find is occasionally a place to loot items, sometimes an NPC that you can speak to, but that's about it. Cities are really just huge areas of nothing that look kind of pretty that you need to run through in order to get to your quest. It's unfortunate, but they could have done a lot more with the cities. However, that appears to be all I can say on Sandland without getting into spoilers, both for the story and for the various vehicles and combat mechanics. Hope you guys found this review helpful. If I had to give it a ranking out of 10, it's an easy 8. It raises the bar for video game adaptations of anime and manga, and other than a few basic pitfalls, it really is an extremely fun game to play. Oh, and also I want to say every screenshot that you have seen in this video is a screenshot of mine. Anyway, thanks guys. I hope you enjoy the game if you ever get into it, and if you already have or want to play it, leave a comment. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you think I deserve it, liking helps the algorithm, and sharing always helps. Regardless, please have a great day. Alright, see ya!